Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Where you going? It's these guys. W. Okay. March 1st planning board meeting is called to order 7:03 p.m. This is to advise that the revised notice of time, date, location, and to the extent known, agenda of subject meeting was prominently posted in a public place reserved for such or similar announcements on February 21st, 2023, and transmitted to the Times, the Princeton Packet, and the West Windsor and Plainsboro News on February 21, 2023, and filed with the Township Clerk on February 21, 2023. Cindy, please call the roll.
Mr. Patel? Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Schichtel?
Yes.
Mr. Pankove?
Yes.
Mr. Begg?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jeevers?
Here.
Mayor Marate?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hoberman?
Here.
Chairman Carp?
Here. Thank you.
Ms. Bari and Ms. Applegate are absent.
Yep. First order of business is to review resolution PB 22-07, National Park Floor and Decor Outlets. Jerry, can you just enumerate the overview of the resolution?
Yeah, this was an application for minor site plan approval to utilize a part of the space, maybe probably around a half of the space in the vacant Walmart building in the Nassau Park Shopping Center. The board granted the site plan approval. There were a number of variances as well. And those included for loading. They're really laid out in the application, paragraph 23, I'm sorry, that's not that's a waiver. Two sign variances. One, and it's really strange. There are waivers from sign standards and variances from sign standards, which is strange. Because the reason for that is that, as David indicated, part of the temporary sign standards are in the zoning ordinance, and the relief from that has to be a variance. And there were two things. One of the signs, they had three signs they were putting up. They were putting up two on a fence, one on the building when it eventually was, well, it is built, when they were coming close to the grand opening. Only two of them would be up at one time. One of the signs was oversized, and only two were permitted. So those were the variances. The waivers start in the next section. There's waivers for loading. There's 5 loading spaces that would be required. 2 are being provided, and the applicant does submit testimony as to why they only needed 2. Front wall signage, and this is permanent signage. It's limited to 50 square feet, while 145 square feet was permitted. The letter height are limited to 18 inches, where a letter height of 36 inches is proposed for portions of the front wall sign. And instructional signs are limited to 2 square feet. While we agreed, and this was kind of a last minute thing that came up, as you might recall, at the very end of the hearing, they wanted the right to install 3 instructional signs of up to 6 square feet. There were also several submission waivers, but that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody on the board have any corrections, modifications, clarifications on something in the resolution?
No, just a quick question. Do we need to mention anything about the affordable housing fees? Is there anything that would be due us?
There will not be any affordable housing fees. There's no additional FAR, no additional square footage. There's no obligation to pay. They're just renovating the exterior of the building.
So there's nothing in extra parking spaces or bays or anything? No. Yeah, okay, that's all.
They're actually taking less space than they're required.
Okay.
Anybody, anything? Okay, I'll entertain a motion, please. So moved. Hannes, made the motion to approve, PB 22-07 Nassau Park Flooring Decor Outlet. So here, second.
Second.
I'm sorry,
Second.
second by Curtis. Please call the roll.
Mr. Begg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jevers,
Yes,
Mayor Marate,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hoberman.
Yes.
Chairman Carr.
Yes. Motion carries, PB 2207 is passed, approved. Next up. Public comments. Anybody from the public wish to comment on any item that's not on the agenda or pending? Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Okay, I don't see what the record reflects. Nobody came up to the microphone. Next up on the agenda is the draft farmland preservation plan element. So David, you're up.
That's me. Good evening, everybody. For the record, David Novak with Burgess Associates, the Township Planning Board consultant. Do I need to get sworn in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is a formal hearing
Sure.
and notice was proper and the board has jurisdiction to consider this master plan element. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth?
I do.
So sworn or affirmed.
Thank you again. For the record, David Novak, NOVAK with Burgess Associates, Township Planning Consultant. Tonight, we are discussing the draft farmland preservation plan of the Township of West Windsor Master Plan. We had a prior draft of this document, which was dated December 5th, 2022. That was discussed at the board's planning board hearing on January 10th, 2023. I had my assistant attend that meeting, Mr. Burgess.
I'll let him know you said that.
These aren't recorded, right? And so based on the comments made at that meeting, we went back, made some drafts or edits to that draft. So we prepared a new draft, which is being discussed tonight, dated February 6, 2023. The board has heard this many times before, but a master plan is essentially a comprehensive long-term strategic development, which is intended to guide the growth and development of a community. It's essentially a roadmap that identifies where a municipality is and where that municipality wishes to go in the future. It generally develops the parameters around which development is to occur and then where different types of development should take place. This is one of the several optional elements of the master plan. The municipal land use law outlines what a farmland preservation plan should incorporate. It is an inventory of farm properties and a map illustrating significant areas of agricultural land. A statement showing that municipal ordinances support and promote agricultural as a business, and a plan for preserving as much farmland as possible in the short term by leveraging monies made available through a variety of mechanisms. So why are we doing this? West Windsor has a very significant agricultural history, but due to increased development pressures, agricultural lands have been lost over the past several decades. So if you look at the 1960s, around 65% of the township was devoted to farmland. By 1978, there was 8,955 acres. In 2002, that decreased to 3,520 acres. And today there's just roughly 2,800 acres devoted to farmland. There are numerous benefits to farmland, which is discussed in the plan. It provides food and sustenance. It is an essential service. It's important for providing scenic vistas and beautiful landscapes. Also provides some ecological benefits as well, including stormwater benefits. As the process that was involved for preparing this plan, we reviewed the prior farmland preservation plan as a baseline. We consulted with the Township Agricultural Advisory Committee. They were kind enough to meet with me. Based on that and the review of other land use actions and the recommendations of this board, we prepared this draft plan. It is structured into several sections, everything from an introduction, goals and policies, agricultural background, farmland today, municipal support of agricultural, county support of agriculture, state support of agriculture, agricultural issues, recommendations, and farmland preservation proposals. That being said, typically what we've done in the past is go section by section, review the plan, make any type of edits or address any types of questions, issues, comments, so on and so forth. So I will leave it up to the board, but if you'd like to start with section 1 with the introduction. Actually, I'm sorry, before we get to that, we had a little bit of a unique situation with timing. So we had set this plan basically the first weekend of February. That same weekend, the state adopted new legislation. That is S757. The legislation is actually referenced in this document, but it was a draft at the time. That legislation authorizes certain commercial farms located on preserved farmland to hold what they call special occasion events. Those are events which are defined as a wedding, a lifetime milestone event, or other cultural or social event conducted in whole or in part on preserved farmland on a commercial farm. So a couple things to break down there. This is legislation that does not apply to all commercial farms. It applies to commercial farm on preserved farmland. Previously in the past, the Right to Farm Act did not necessarily benefit or protect certain activities that were not related to the agricultural product of that farm. So the Right to Farm Act, for example, doesn't protect weddings or birthday parties being conducted on farms. This legislation does expand that a little bit by making those activities under certain parameters allowable for, again, commercial farms on preserved farmland. It does set some quantity limitations as well. A commercial farm on preserved farmland can only have 26 events a year. Of those, only 6 can have more than 250 or more guests, with certain caveats attached to that. Special occasion events are subject to all applicable state and local laws, regulations, resolutions, and ordinances. That includes food safety, litter, noise, solid waste, traffic, and the protection of health and safety. Regarding physical improvements, legislation is fairly interesting. You can't create a new permanent structure, including building and parking, that would be constructed or erected on preserved farmland for the purposes of holding a special event. You can't also use another structure that was built 5 years prior to the request of having an event, which I thought was fairly interesting. Yeah. Temporary structure. What was that? Yes, yeah. It's very specifically written. Temporary structures and temporary parking are permitted. They would have to be subject to the Uniform Construction Code and the Uniform Fire Code. No public utilities, including gas or sewer lines, could be extended. However, electric and water may serve special occasion events. Occupied areas for special occasion events can only be the lesser of 10 acres or 10% of the total farmland area. And retail food establishments are not allowed, but temporary retail food establishments are. So just a unique situation with the timing. In our plan and one of our recommendations, we actually do recommend creating some sort of ordinance to allow for special occasions on farmland. So we were a little bit ahead of this. In fact, one of the first things I ever worked on for West Windsor way back when,
Don't say it.
I'll leave out some of the words, but part of it included trying to come up with a template for allowing these types of events for agritourism. So this feeds into that. The legislation does have some parameters for how to control this. It's essentially, to me, it looks like it'd be, if the municipality chooses to, municipal application that would just kind of keep track of what's being run where. So what I propose is providing this update in this plan, and then just expanding on that recommendation to incorporate an ordinance to reflect this new legislation.
So, Dave, scenario.
Yes.
Let's say a farm owner wants to have on the property, just like a small picnic pavilion. It could be multi-use in many ways. If they want to use it for produce sales at some future time or something like that. Does this law preclude the farm owner from doing such action like that?
From what I understand, only if that picnic pavilion was constructed 5 years before they make an application to have a special occasion event.
Oh, so the 5-year thing kicks in.
That's my understanding of this. Yes.
Can I ask you a question? You mentioned that this only applies commercial farmland on preserved
farmland. Yeah. So not just a commercial farm, but a farm that has somehow sold their development rights as well.
How many acres in the town falls under that category?
Preserved farmland? We should have that number.
Just under 500.
Just under 500. That's
okay.
If you look at section 4, I believe we outline that. Yeah.
And so just under 500 acres of preserved farmland, and it has to be, it's not a, it has to be a commercial farm.
Yes.
not somebody just has a lot of acres that really, has designated farms, sells the minimum number of eggs or wood or whatever it may be, but somebody who really has a commercial farmland license, right?
They would have to meet the requirements to be identified as a commercial farm.
Okay.
Which I can look up. It's typically 5-acre minimum size. I'm looking at Mr. Janney here. Eligible for tax assessment for farmland, and I think a production of $10,000. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand.
Mhm.
Is there a designated land that is not considered commercial farmland, but it's still, taxed at a farm, quote unquote, farm tax rate? Is there basically, is there a distinction between someone who has just a big vegetable garden and a commercial farm?
Two different things.
Yeah, I would say they're
Right.
two different things. Yeah.
It's designated by income.
Yes, that would be it.
Yeah. Steve, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
So sworn to affirm. Please state your full name for the record, Steve.
34 Windsor Edinburgh Road, West Windsor.
And also for the record, Steve is the chair of the Township Agricultural Advisory Committee.
And for the record, he's the former vice chair of the planning.
So he is
I've been here.
not
15
that
years.
far back. Come on, guys.
So the reason why I'm asking these questions, I'm trying to narrow down like the population of farmland that falls into this kind of category, right? Like it's 500 acres of preserved land, but how are all those 500 acres, do they have commercial farms, or does some fall under the other category of not meeting the revenue generation?
I think the easy answer is that out of all of those, they're mostly owned by the township except for Mr. Janney's farm and Mr. Tyndall's farm that are preserved.
Yeah.
There are other farms that are not preserved but have farmland assessment on them, but they're not commercial farming operations.
So they're not commercial farmland. So the 500 acres what would fall under this kind of purview, it's less than 500 acres then.
Yep. For example, privately owned preserved farmland accounts for 183 acres.
Okay.
So there's really not that many preserved commercial farms
And that's
that are
basically
privately
Mr.
owned.
Janney's farm and Mr. Tyndall's farm.
Yeah.
So, and how many acres is that? That's
183.
200 something.
Yeah, 150 maybe.
So 150. So you're really talking about 150 acres out of the whole town that may be, have to follow these kind of new rules. Is that right?
This legislation would automatically apply to those properties. That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is narrow it down to say, you know what, it's not this grand, like, oh my God, these people cannot have weddings anymore and they're gonna have to file. And so I just want to put in perspective.
No, this is in West Windsor, the number of privately owned preserved farms are smaller than what you would maybe see in some other agricultural communities.
Okay.
And this just establishes this legislation would just apply to those pieces of property because
okay.
I understand what you're saying as well, because it gets a little bit confusing. You can have a commercial farm that's not preserved.
Right.
You can have commercial farm that is on preserved farmland. You can have a tax assessed property as farmland, but it's not necessarily a commercial farm. But this would apply very narrowly to those commercial farms on preserved farmland.
Right. And there's, I just based from my questioning, we established there's not a whole lot of acres in the scheme of things. It's a lot of acres. Don't get me wrong. So, it's much bigger than my property, but in the scheme of West Windsor, it's not very large.
And it was actually even one of the land use planning recommendations that we had in section 9.3 to permit agritourism. And we actually did reference this Senate bill as an example. So
I think it's a good thing. That's just my personal opinion.
Also, there's one other farm I forgot on Windsor Road. Jim Britton just bought it. About, what you would say, Steve, it's next to your farm, about maybe 8 or 9 acres in West Windsor and 25 or 30 in Robbinsville, something like that.
Yes, yeah,
mm-hmm. And
he's basically going to run cattle onto it. Kids have horses onto it. I don't see him doing
Right, right.
Yeah, and the other important thing to note too is that when we're talking about this acreage, you're only allowed to use either 10% or 10 acres, whatever is less. So if there's a 50-acre farm, only 5 acres of that could be devoted to that special event.
No, it's still, I mean, that's a huge event.
I mean,
You
And,
know?
and
Depends on the wedding.
the Parking.
Exactly.
Yep.
et cetera.
It's still, unless you're gonna have Woodstock, you know, it's pretty soft.
Yeah, okay.
You probably remember, Wayne Kalinowski and Paul Harris with Windsor Youth Farm. They used to do concerts and have hay rides and like that. It's kind of meeting on that and giving them the right to do that. I'm sure with municipal approval.
And I brought my-
They have to have,
Really interested.
the easement holder approval.
Yes.
Or if it's county, it's or what, Windsor, their approval, and then also municipal approval for anything else they might need.
This wouldn't, you know, I brought my kids on hay rides when they were little, you know, that doesn't count, right?
Well, Hayride would probably be right to farm, right?
Yeah, yeah, most of the hay rides are promoting like the pumpkins that.
Right, back of the tractor,
Yeah,
pumpkin
Yeah, and
picking.
all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
So if it's, and that goes right to farm, which is 51% of production has to be your own production.
right,
You can sell 49 and something else.
got it, okay.
And Mike, you did the same thing when you were young in Queens, right? With hay rides and
No, we didn't have hay.
I have a couple of questions for,
Train surfing, we did train surfing.
I'm not.
oh. So two teenagers were killed,
That's why.
subway surfing, yeah. Two things, David.
Yes.
I mean, these are really pretty complicated. Do we have any enforcement obligation? Does the town have an enforcement obligation?
Not necessarily an obligation, so to speak. From what I read, the legislation allows a municipality to basically come up with an application process. It's very limited about what that application process can be, but they could essentially charge a fee up to a certain amount. And it's really more just, I would say, to keep track of things. But the township, from a permitting, from an allowance perspective, an application perspective, not much. But if temporary structures, for example, would still likely have to get inspected by the building department for UCC compliance. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry.
No.
Then I had a question about a statement in the second paragraph where you say, I guess it's the second sentence, any special event held pursuant to this legislation is not permitted to interfere with the use of the preserved farm for agricultural or horticultural production. I wasn't quite sure what that meant, because obviously everything after that shows that it is going to interfere. So I'm not sure what that means.
I think it's more interfering from a physical standpoint. So, for example, you wouldn't be able to remove a field or impact soil quality, I would imagine, for a temporary parking area for a special event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would make permanent parking.
Okay. That's fine. And then I don't know if you're intending to offer this as part of the farmland preservation plan. But just one correction, David.
Yes, absolutely.
It's third from the final paragraph.
Mhm.
Second sentence, however, electric and water serve, that should be water service.
Shall.
Oh, it's electric and water service.
Service,
to be extended,
right,
yes.
yeah.
Is that the public utilities on that second page?
That would be on the second page.
Is that what you're talking about? That
No public, the paragraph that begins with no public utilities.
right? Because it says you wrote may be extended. I think one version of this that was approved, it says shall be extended to the preserved farmland.
Let me take a look at that right now.
I got
think
pages,
shall's-
pages of this bill.
I'm looking at page 3 of this bill, and it's. Yeah, the issue that we're let's see. The confusing issue with this legislation is that it's been adopted, but we don't have a final version of this draft yet. So there's a lot of, if you ever really state legislation, a lot of underlines, a lot of brackets. I see on page 11, item D, no public utilities, including gas or sewer lines, shall be extended to the preserved farmland for the purpose of holding special occasion events, except that electric and water service may be extended to preserved farmland for the purpose of holding. So I still see a may in my version.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're saying gas and sewer.
That's nice.
They talk about gas and sewer, and then electric and water may be. Sewer, I think it's just poorly written, but they're trying to distinguish it between electric and water versus gas and sewer.
Yeah. You know what? They actually do have a pamphlet law out now, which is helpful. And I'm still seeing no public utilities, including gas or sewer lines, shall be extended, except that electric and water service may be extended.
Right.
So I think it's still maybe.
Right.
Yeah, it's just poorly written. They should, it looks like they're, the first couple of words indicate everything, and then they distinguish, water and, electric.
Well,
I have a question regarding the 26 events, right?
Mhm.
Does it require a permit to be granted prior to holding an event? Or just that you can hold 26 events?
I think that's up to the municipality. So I think the municipality could come up with a permit application process for this.
Because if you don't have a permit, if you don't have a
requires
permit
a zoning
process,
permit.
I'm sorry.
Any land use activity requires a zoning permit. And typically, if they're gonna have folks there, they're gonna need to get, like electrical permit, health department approval, because
Okay.
they're enforcing all state statutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so for a municipal application, municipality shall not charge an application fee of more than $50. They're very specific on that. And the municipal application shall not require more information than an identification of locations where tents and other temporary structures, sanitary facilities, parking, and access and egress will be located for each event, where music will be played, the number of expected guests, and other information that may be of the public concern and would be required of a similar event when conducted at a public park or other public venue.
And that also these older, you have to apply to them.
Yes.
So that could be West Windsor, or it could be
Mercer County.
So David, they don't have to provide a survey showing where things will be located or not?
I don't know if it would necessarily be something as survey accurate. It doesn't necessarily say you're required to have a survey, just the locations of where those are being conducted. So
they could draw up something in pencil and.
Alan, before they can sell the development rights, they have to get a survey of the property done. So I have a copy of the survey of all the preserved farms
So
in
that
town.
they can basically just go into your
Make a
office
copy of that and draw it
pinpoint-
to scale.
yeah, I would say mark out the survey and then.
Yeah, you're not looking to do a site plan review at your office, are you, Sam?
I'm sorry, Alan?
You're not looking to do a site plan review at your office?
No. I
so-
may go to the event, but.
Okay.
Jerry, I just have some like legal, we don't have the final version, but it's out there, but we don't have it. Can't get a hold of it yet, or how?
Or comes after legislation.
Right.
Implementing or still being developed, from what we've been told at Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau.
Right.
It's coming, but it's not totally done yet.
So there's, I guess, Jerry, my question is legally, something has been passed here, right? It's a legislation S757. I think the companion was A2772. I don't know if we need to mention that or not. So like, I'm comfortable with mentioning something that this is happening. But when I look at, pages and pages of detail, I don't know if we captured all of that in this, or should we just have something that mentions this is the new legislation? We can't change it. So the question, do we want to mention it in this? I'd say yes, but I don't know if you put in some things, but not everything. And what if something shall or may or something turns out to be wrong? Like, do we want to put in some of the detail, but not all of the detail, or is it better just to reference the legislation, you know.
I personally think it's a good idea, putting some detail in, and I thought the level that David had was good.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, I think we're not doing a zoning ordinance. We're not doing any legislation. All we are doing is informing. It's an informative process. And if somebody really wants to dig into it, they have the ability to go online to the state to get those rules and regulations. But I think it's important because, we have a lot of things. For example, we have the Green Acres program referenced in here. We don't have all the rules and regulations on that. Anybody looking to do Green Acres, they're going to go to the state for that information. The Bureau of Water Allocation we have listed in here. I mean, to me, this is just informative. It's a generalization. And I think David's summation was good. If somebody wants to pick it apart, well, they can do that. And they're going to go to the state.
I think adding on to what Alan said, if there could be a footnote hyperlink to the legislation, I think that would help the reader.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
David, would that go in section 7?
Beat me to it. Now I was going to create a new section 7.5 for this.
All right, great.
Okay.
So section 7.5 will include the hyperlink
To the legislation.
to the legislation. And there is actually, since the last time I checked, which is last week, or I'm sorry, earlier this week, there is now what they call the pamphlet law, which is a lot easier to read. So it doesn't track the changes.
Can I suggest in this new section 7.5, I guess you're gonna have like your summary in there and then a link, right?
Yep.
I like all your, I'm a graphics guy, right? I like the charts and the metrics so it's some kind of pie chart, but also like where we drill down to the commercial farmland with preservation farmland, so we can get down to the meat of what it is really affecting. It'll be a very small sliver of the pie.
Absolutely.
Just my suggestion.
Something like that.
Yeah, we have is it going to be like a map and it'll just
Like something similar to
Some visual?
page 41, a visual that it's going to show what slice of the pie is really affecting.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. Basically, all that work is almost done. So we can include language with that.
And you'll see when you're done, this 100 and something acres that it really affects is not that big in the scheme of the pie. And however you think the pie should be laid out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as a rough estimation, maybe 6.3% of all farmland.
6.3 for farmland, and then how much of land, open space and land, it's even a smaller percentage of that.
Yes, we can do something like that.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize, this is a formal public hearing. So if the board is going to act tonight and vote, they're going to vote on this text with whatever amendments we want. And things like what you're suggesting, Mike, we can do that. It just need to be specific enough that, and I think you were on that, but I just wanted to remind the board, this is not a work session.
So that'll be the new 7 point.
That will be 7.5, and we will call that special occasion events.
And did you say a map, or you were just saying like a chart? Because
Like
most people would want to see
similar to page 41,
a map.
There's a pie chart.
Is there, because when people look and read this, they're going to say, well, I live near a farm, and they're going to want to know if that farm would be under this new legislation.
Do you want
a map?
Do we want to list the farms and the lands that are, fall into this category?
That can change.
It can change for sure.
Just more kind of dot line.
Yeah, okay, we can leave the pie out. It's just a suggestion.
No, I mean, pie is fine. I was just saying, you know, map.
Individual farm.
Got it. Understood.
So if we want to jump from section 7.5 back to section 1,
Roman numeral 3,
wait a second.
preceding section 1 introduction.
Oh, hold on. I am there, yes.
Okay, do we want to add our alternate number 2, Pankaj Patel?
We do, I think, yes. I would agree with that. Does somebody have the spelling of that?
Pankaj, first name. Last name Patel.
E-L. I apologize that was not added beforehand.
It's right here. So this is what we're talking about.
Okay. Any other edits before the introduction?
Well, obviously, on Roman numeral 5, the addition of section 7.5.
Yeah, that'll be an update or automatic update, hopefully with Microsoft Word.
And maybe it might happen during the course of the evening discussion. There might be additional acronyms to throw on that table.
Yes.
Okay, now you can do section 1.
Well, I'll open it to the board. Any comments, edits on section 1? This is again an introduction, goes into an overview of the master plan. We did provide an update on to some of the optional elements that we completed so far.
Just a point, as we develop elements for the master plan, I really liked what you did on page 5 with the table of plan elements and when they were adopted or what the status of them are at the point of this document or whatever future document.
Yep.
So I'd like to keep that for future editions of
absolutely.
the master plan.
We're working on a draft of the conservation element, which we're going to soon hand off to Mr. Dolbomilski and the Environmental Commission, and we're incorporating that type of chart in there as well.
Thank you. Question for you, on page 5, your chart, section X, farmland preservation plan, that's not a hyperlink?
Not yet, because I need to wait until yeah.
Okay.
Which I'll have to, I guess, a bit of a chicken and the egg scenario, because I need to figure out how I'll work with Sam and his IT guy, figure out how to do a hyperlink for something that's not on the website yet.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
What you can do is if you put like a placeholder, and it's not, as long as you're going back to that same placeholder document, you can link it. You can call it whatever you want here and link it to whatever placeholder you put out there. But when you build your document, it's got to be that placeholder document.
Okay.
And then it just it'll take one, step away from, future.
Now, I wonder if the existing URL would actually work too if we just swap it, but we'll figure something out. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't do it, you don't do it, because the document's not available yet. I just noticed it wasn't underlined, so
Okay. If there's nothing else for section 1, section 2, goals and policies. If I hear nothing for section 2, section 3, agricultural background.
This is more of a point of information. On page 13, okay, and it's referred to numerous times probably in the section 3. What is the real difference between prime farmland and farmland of statewide importance? Is it a soils issue? I mean, is it like a soil survey would say this soil is prime, and a soil survey would say because of the character of the soil that this soil is only farmland of statewide significance?
It does get to the soil quality. My best estimation is prime farmland and I'm sorry, prime farmland and farmland of statewide importance can be very similar in agricultural yield. But I believe that prime farmland, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, would take less upkeep than farmland of statewide importance to produce a crop. Yeah.
Better.
It's basically better soil, yeah.
Okay. So it's a soil judgment.
It is a soil judgment, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Classification, right. So I know, so loamy and whatever, all that stuff. Thanks.
It's, I guess the difference between growing Napa Valley, Cabernet, and Merlot, right?
I'm not a wine guy, so I would not know.
My wine comes out of a jug, so. Okay. If there's nothing in section 3, section 4, and again, if I'm going too quickly, please feel free to yell at me. This is farmland today.
So, I guess, page 23 in this section, on the topic of agricultural related facilities, within West Windsor Township, do we have any tree nurseries?
I don't think we do.
Because I mean, that I would think that a nursery, by definition, is in its own way, shape, form.
Well, we do have one that we just reviewed the other day. It's the campus operations building in Princeton University. It includes a nursery where they grow everything that they plant on campus is from that nursery.
I think agricultural related business is a kind of a term of art. It's actually taken from the Mercer County Farmland Plan. So a lot of this section is borrowed from that. Mercer County says that the only agriculture related business is the Tri-County Cooperative Auction. So I think when we talk about agriculture related business, I think it's buying and selling.
Yeah, right. Which is different. That's a special.
Yeah, this is
what Jerry was describing was a very specialty use, serving a specialty owner.
Yeah.
So that would come under like ag related.
Yeah, I would agree.
But if you go to Robbinsville, there's half a dozen tree farms.
That's exactly. I didn't know if that dynamic, we had that dynamic at all in West Windsor Township.
No. I think we used to by the train station years and years and years ago. But
Wait, back in the day, we actually had a sod farm in West Windsor Township. The sod farm is now Nassau.
Really?
Nassau Park. Does anyone else remember this?
Yeah.
Nassau Park was a sod farm.
We landed their plane.
I don't know. I guess fine.
I'm gonna have to look that up in historic aerials. That'll be fun to see.
Sod farm. Yeah. And I guess that was by definition.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
we don't have no sod farms in West Windsor Township.
And sod farms are pretty popular from what I've seen driving around. Sod farms are pretty popular still from what I've seen driving around. Yeah.
So was it a historic reference? Was any of the properties of Carnegie Center, were they sod farms too? Or was that all just other farm use? Like ag use?
Carrot farms, after Mounts gave up the orchard.
Right.
They had sod farms up there.
As part of which is now Carnegie Center.
Yeah, Carnegie Center and Nassau Park.
Right. It went all the way down to the
was Reed's sod farm in West Windsor on Route 1? Reed's?
Reed.
Yeah.
And Robert Reed was detained with his cousin over on Rabbit Road.
Okay.
And there was one on Quaker Road, Quaker Long in.
Wait, that was the Carrot Farm.
Yes.
Yeah, we sold that for Mercer Mall and Nassau Park.
Oh. Just.
Yeah. Allison, I'm going to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give and have given will be and has been the truth? Please say your full name for the record.
Now you have to repeat it.
Repeat your thought about the Christmas tree.
Now the Rogers Preserve, owned by West Windsor. Yeah, he did for 15 years, 20 years, something like that, yeah.
Okay. Go to section 5.
Okay.
And quick question, page 21 talks about livestock. And it says the number of chickens has increased. Is livestock also considered pets or not?
Unless you're gonna eat them.
Let's
So can you have livestock anywhere in town? Can you have goats or?
Commercial operation, somebody buying and selling. If
Okay,
they were selling the eggs from the
Right.
restaurant, then it's a commercial operation.
You can only have 3 chickens as pets.
Only 3 chickens and pets in West Windsor. Yeah, no roosters.
yeah, the roosters allowed, yeah.
Right, John?
No roosters?
Do we have, I think, Alan, I think in Hamilton, there was a farm, I think it's a commercial farm, and now they can like have beer.
Oh, it's out on Extonville Road. They got an approval to do a brewery
Yeah,
on a 55-acre farm.
Right.
Obviously not gonna take up that much
Right.
Space,
Right.
but that was just approved.
It's in Hamilton, right?
Yeah,
Hamilton.
it's near the border with Allentown.
What's it called?
It's a brewery. I don't know the name of the owner, but it's it's on Extonville Road.
YTON.
I'm sorry?
I think it's BRYTON. It's a Briton that owns it, and
Yeah.
but not well, might be related to Jimmy Britton who just bought Terrace Farm, but yeah, they're planning on a brewery and then probably planting some hops and like.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right. Yeah.
That's a really, I mean, to me, for Hamilton, it's an exciting
Right.
process.
That's exciting for me.
Alan, other examples in the state, there's a farm brewery on Highway 202 in Reddington.
Oh, really?
That just opened the last couple of years, and there's also one in Monmouth County.
Spring Hill Brewery.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember where.
You need one in West Windsor.
That one I'm looking forward to.
But could we do something like that in West Windsor? Why not?
So, you can find the space.
Take him to Reddington. Take him out.
But is there anything that we should add in anywhere for considering the possibility of that or encouraging that?
Of encouraging breweries, distilleries, and wineries on farmland. I certainly would never object to that. Steve, there's a question for you, I guess. Would a brewery be something that would that be protected under right to farm? Is that one of the on-farm direct marketing?
If they're raising the hops and input to it, Reckless Mountain Brewery or distillery in Burlington is doing vodka with their potatoes.
Oh, wow.
Potatoes, and they're doing that.
So if they're growing their crop, then they can actually use that as a brewery, and that would be protected under right to farm. Yeah.
I mean, one of the challenges in our geography here in central New Jersey is it's not the best for hops. I mean, upstate New York has really taken off on this, but they're at a different latitude and stuff.
Yeah, I went to a brewery up there. It was
hop
nice.
production, and we're below that latitude, and so it would never happen on a big way here.
I think Spring Hill is now up to maybe 25 acres.
Really?
Wow.
But it's intensive. We have disease problems here.
Right.
New York doesn't get.
Right. That affect hop yield.
Yeah.
Yield. Right.
Could a microbrewery open up on non-farm land as a manufacturing facility?
We allow that in certain zoning districts,
Wouldn't
actually.
allow it because the
Oh, no?
farms are all in residential districts and that.
No, not on a farm. Let's say there's a spot next to the train station. Somebody wanted to manufacture their own beer.
the zoning wouldn't allow it.
No, not
We
that.
would- Over on the Howard Hughes site, the other 80 acres that's coming in for phase 3, the distillery, all that is permitted use.
Exactly. Yeah, we specifically amended the ordinance to include breweries
So,
there.
so in that area, somebody could put a microbrewery, they can manufacture their own beer.
In
In the
In that-
PCD district, they could do that.
In that district.
actually, you know what, Sam? We did amend the RP1 district to allow for limited breweries.
Yeah, they don't have to grow it there.
No, they wouldn't grow it there, but we could allow for a limited
I'm
brewery.
not talking about growing, because if you limit it to just areas that can be grown, that's, you know,
It's the
not gonna-
PCD, and I guess
RP1
retail that's part of the Avalon project could have one there.
Yeah, in the RP1 district, we allow for taverns, limited breweries, and brew pubs, and we do establish definitions for those.
Oh, okay.
You think like something like Old Heights? In Heights
just,
West?
I don't know of anything around here, but.
Old Heights.
Well, what was the brewery in Princeton that used to be there? Triumph, yeah.
They're
Triumph's is not there anymore?
No, they're moved. Their Triumph Brewing Company has not reopened since the pandemic.
Really?
Meanwhile, no, because they're going to reestablish the location in the old Princeton post office at Palmer Square.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
What?
Oh, yeah.
It's not. It's still. It's under construction.
It's only been under construction for about
Forever,
2
I know.
years.
Whatever you know. Whatever Rob said. Whatever. We're off subject. Let's go.
Sorry. Anything else with, I can talk about brewers all day. Anything else in section 4? Otherwise, we do have section 5, municipal support.
No. Nothing.
Okay, so on page 27, it is mentioned the 2009 sustainability plan element of the master plan with its footnote. Is that a plan that is going to be reviewed and updated by the planning?
I believe that is on.
Next year.
Next year, yeah. We're working on the conservation plan element first.
Okay,
Conservation,
and-
stormwater, and historic preservation. Those are the 3 we're working on this year.
Yes.
okay.
There's nothing for section 5, section 6, which is county support. As an aside, reading Mr. Burgess's handwriting with all these edits was quite the challenge. So,
Page 35. The acronym FPP needs to be added to the acronym list on the previous page.
yes, and as a funny aside, it took me forever to figure out what that acronym actually was because it's not easily available on their website.
Oh, what is it? So,
It's the farmland preservation
Program.
on the acronym list page, earlier page, you have that acronym as FP, but here you have it as FPP, which is correct.
Wait, I'm
See my point?
On the
Table of acronyms prior to section 1.
Mhm.
Change FFP to FPP.
oh yes, I see exactly. Yep.
You know, just a further thought, in section 1, and Curtis pointed out that we have this list of all the plan elements that have been approved. I wonder if there's a better terminology than not adopted for the economic plan, historic preservation, development transfer plan, education facilities plan. Yeah, because not adopted, somebody could read that to mean
That there's a
it came from-
draft.
reject it, yeah.
Yeah. Great point. None,
Or maybe not yet adopted.
but that would also make the assumption we would be adopting them.
Yeah, I know.
I would just say, what about none? NONE.
There's none.
This really won't fit,
The
but
funny thing is, I mean, yes, none
Mhm.
at the point of adoption of this element. But at some point in the future, they may exist. But if one looks at, if the reader years down the road looks at the farmland element and sees none there, but might know otherwise that, yeah, we finally did get around to doing
Mm.
an economic plan. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if none's the correct language.
What about, for the date, we do the 3- method? Just repeat that for the status. The 3 dashes in a row.
Pretty ambiguous then. Why those are even in there?
You can just say not adopted as of, and then put today's date.
Right, as of.
Yeah, that's
They-
good. I think that's good.
Right.
Okay, we can make that change.
Yeah, on like page 37, there's maybe a typo here. Just want to. The second paragraph says to be eligible for a planning incentive grant, a municipal must. I think it should be municipality must.
That is absolutely a typo. A municipality must. If there's nothing else for section 6, the next one would be section 7, which is state support.
David, I think last time I brought this up, maybe inartfully so, but on page 45, under Green Acres program, maybe rather than say 3/4 down the page where we get into ors, maybe rather than say or, can we just say in the event that one of the following events has been met or achieved or occurred, something along those lines?
We can do something like that, yes.
Take yours out.
So yeah, on page
45.
45, yes, thank you.
The bullet point.
Yeah, so instead of adding or each one, we'll just do when one of the following has been met. And I will blame Mr. Burgess's handwriting on that one.
I saw him write it.
If there's nothing else for section 7, section 8 would be agricultural issues.
So, what I'm wondering if in terms of the reader getting into this section, what happens is the way this section is set up is that the bullet points that you're seeing become the sub points that follow, after the number 8 in the rest of this chapter. What I'm wondering is if it would be good to put parenthetical or in brackets at the end of each line, like the first line bracket 8.2, the next line appropriate leasing bracket at the end 8.3, so the reader can know that it's a substitute will be developed.
Yeah, absolutely. That would make sense. So add the brackets after each one.
Yeah, and then you did not list in the bullet points, but there is a bracket. There is an item on it. Is vertical farming.
Oh yes, we did do that. That would be that's the second one. I know when we get to public comments, I think John found something from the state that contradicts, I'm sorry. Yeah, something from the state that contradicts what Rutgers found as well.
There's time for public comment.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll give you time. Okay.
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else for section 8, then section 9 would be our recommendations.
Yeah.
And this, we will have to amend section 9.3, where we discuss agritourism, because draft Senate bill is no longer draft Senate bill. And what the heck, might as well open up to section 10 as well.
Can we stay on 9.3 for a second? David, what you added, it's ambiguous as to whether we're actually recommending that we adopt or amend an ordinance so as to make vertical farming. Are you recommending that? Is that what we're going to recommend? It just says review
the township, yeah. The recommendation was merely more geared towards analyzing our land use and development regulations and to understand where they or may not, or where they may prohibit vertical farming. So, for example, vertical farming would allow or require a higher building height. In some of our residential districts, that would not be accommodated by the current bulk standards. So we could use stronger language there. Review, adjust, consider. I just did not necessarily put a height limitation on it because I wouldn't know what that height limitation would be for a vertical farm yet.
Would there need to be any changes in zoning ordinances to allow vertical farming since it's more of a facility than farmland?
It probably would count as a farm structure. So it would be, or farm building. So it would be advisable if we are looking to amend our ordinance to adjust a specific bulk height for a vertical farm.
Steve's got something.
Yeah.
Most of the vertical farming that's taken place so
It's
far
urban, yeah.
has been in
Urban area.
commercial buildings, you know, run down warehouses.
Yep.
And like that. So the height issue, I don't really foresee a farmer building a super high structure because they gotta be able to get to them to pick.
Could you do
What's
that?
typically grown in the vertical farm?
Usually it's like lettuce, tomatoes, fruits.
It'd be like hydroponic?
Pardon me?
Hydroponics?
Yeah, most of them are hydroponic.
Allow for year-round growth.
Yeah, for year, or, you know, they make it like a greenhouse for the tomatoes so that they can have tomatoes year-round. And like that, but there is a lot of hydroponic being done in vertical farming.
I think
Steve, are there many vertical farms presently in the state of New Jersey?
I think there's 2 in Newark.
Yeah, that's my familiarity.
I think there's 1 in Camden.
Well, many moons ago. Yeah, many moons ago, I had worked in Patterson, and there was almost an application for a vertical farm there that did not go through. But essentially, you usually see them in older industrial neighborhoods. Right. Not to say that they can't be utilized in other rural environments, but my familiarity has been kind of retrofitting older buildings.
Yeah.
I think 60 Minutes a couple of years ago had a really good segment on vertical farms. You know, they went inside, showed it to you. It was amazing. I have to see if I can dig that out, though. I do. I send it around. It was good. Very good.
Pertain to West Windsor, but there's a lot of rooftop farming being done in cities now that you know haven't been done. You know, that started for the next 5 years. So that can take off into.
I mean, I guess where I'm driving at from my angle is, let's say, an entrepreneur
Mhm.
wants to come to West Windsor and open up a vertical farm. And he's got the property he wants to do it on, or the reuse of an older structure he wants to do it on. Would our zoning ordinances allow it? And what's the relationship of that idea with right to farm?
So right to farm would only apply to commercial farms, right? So that means in order to get right to farm protection, you would need 2 years eligibility for tax assessment. You need a minimum of 5 acres, and you would need $10,000 worth of production growth. So,
but my point is that vertical farm is a different animal,
yeah,
because it's using less land, and that's what I'm saying. I would not think that a vertical farm would come under this 5 acre.
There is another category for smaller sizes, but
you hear my point?
Yeah, I think it's an
If
eight.
they gross $50,000. And I'm not sure, when Break the Farm was done, nobody really thought it worked.
Well, it's new in the last 10 years. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that minimum informative assessment qualification would fit on that or not. But I know there's another category for $50,000.
I believe you could get down to, I think, 1 acre if it's 50,000. Yeah, but the conundrum is, if somebody if somebody, for example, finds a spot in one of our industrial districts,
Right.
And we really don't have an industrial district, say somewhere in Carnegie Center, and they want to do vertical farm. From the moment they submit an application, even if they had that, acre, they can get farmland assessment. They need 2 years of assessment status first. So if they were to submit an application, when they go in, they can't be protected under the right to farm, even if they will be meeting those criteria, because they need 2 years first.
That's for assessment purposes.
For assessment purposes. But in order to
our zoning ordinance says you have a right to farm in any zoning district in the town.
So having said what Sam said, an entrepreneur could do a vertical farm anywhere in the township?
No.
That's the way I would read it.
I don't think so.
My thought would be like the old Sarnoff building. Maybe something there might fit, but
right, because that's
open Carnegie.
Yeah, that building's.
Yeah. Right, so right to farm.
This is just thinking out loud, some future scenario that who knows may happen. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, Sam is correct. So the right to farm does apply everywhere in West Windsor, regardless of zoning designation. They would still have to abide by height limitations, but otherwise it would be.
Or they apply for variance.
Yeah.
As long as it's not more than 10 feet higher than what the zone allows, and it's a bulk variance in front of the planning board.
Yeah. Oh, yes, a lot of the vertical farms I've seen interest in recently, I don't think it would be permitted in West Windsor at this moment because they're all related to cannabis.
That's another story altogether.
Another story altogether. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, next.
So just leaving it in, right? So,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
okay.
All right.
So.
Okay. Again, section 9 or section 10? In section 10, there was a recommendation at the last hearing to add maps of each farm. So we went ahead and threw those in, and they are all to scale when you print them out.
Question about prime farmland.
Yeah.
The first map.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go.
Prime farmland.
The designation between prime and statewide important.
You see the difference.
The greens look close in color. The greens are really close in color though, but yeah.
Yeah. The prime is
Yeah.
Yep. And that was a recommendation that I think it was you that made it, to see where those buildings are. So Originally, the map was just showing where the soils were with lots, but with the building and the other coverage, you can see exactly that, how houses were developed on prime farmland.
So the mayor says I keep giving away my age in my remarks. I've said for many years, in the many years I've lived here, you put water on the ground and up springs a subdivision.
Are there any other comments or questions or edits in the mapping? We did make some edits to the mapping, including making those quad lines a little bit clearer and easier to read, hopefully. But essentially, that would be it. That would be our farmland preservation plan. So.
A production note on the final pages at the back of the document. Have them turn the page on the short side, not on the long side. Dave, you know what I'm talking about?
Not necessarily.
Look at this. Open this up. Look.
I don't have a physical copy. I'm gonna walk over to you.
Come on over. So these back-to-back pages should have the hinge here.
Oh, they were upside down.
Yeah.
I can only let you do so much, but when I was yelling at it, but I will.
That's a production.
The brokers don't have a problem reading upside down. Just say that. That's how they steal their leads.
Okay, public comment?
Yep, about to get there. Anybody else, anything?
No, I think it's just a typo, that new 7.5 under quantity, it says, special occasion events may have a maximum duration of 2 consecutive calendar days. Is the event is marked, I think it should say of 2 consecutive calendar days if the event is marketed as a single event.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
It's a little typo, but that's under that quantity section.
I'm gonna borrow. Yes, that's.
We'll change that now.
Yep. Okay, public comments. Sure, please step up.
Yep. You swear or affirm the testimony about to give me the truth.
I do swear.
So sworn or affirmed. John, please state your full name for the record.
Yes, John Church, 11 Princeton Place. Yeah, I did some number crunching. At the last meeting where this was discussed, I pointed out that they made a grammatical error in talking about power versus energy. They talked about 654 megawatts of power, but it should have been 654 megawatt hours of energy. And David has kindly made that correction. But I was doing some, I was looking at it again today and doing some number crunching. I think that Rutgers has made a very large mistake in their estimate of how much electrical energy New Jersey uses in 1 year. So I checked with the U.S. Department of Energy. This is a rather large number. Apparently, New Jersey uses 75 terawatt hours of energy, electrical energy per year. That's 75 trillion watt hours of energy per year. That's a huge amount of energy. Now, when they did the calculations, when Rutgers did this calculation as to how much we could get from biomass, I think they grossly overestimated the relative amount that we could get from biomass versus what we could actually get. So I did the number crunching, and I came up with the figure that instead of biomass providing 6.4% of the electrical energy, it's actually 0.0087%, a difference factor of more than 7,300. Now, you could make the correction this evening based on what I'm telling you, or I could submit a memo to David and the board so that a better correction, a more exact correction could be put into your into the plan. So whatever you wish to do, I'm willing to do that.
Or, third option, I'll leave it up to the board. Third option would be we just get rid of that whole percentage and we just keep the numbers.
All right.
We can, the third option would be too, just to get rid of the percentage
Oh, you could do that.
and just keep the number at
You
654
could keep
megawatts.
the number, that would be the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah.
But I can't account for why Rutgers made such a huge error in their number crunching. And we could skip that part of it and just say they could provide this many megawatt hours of energy from biomass and let the rest go if you want to do that.
My fellow members.
Yeah.
agree.
Which page is that on again?
51, page 51.
Okay, let's,
I think that's a good idea, just to skip that part of it because it's way off.
all right, so how should it read now?
At the bottom of, near the bottom of page 51.
Yeah.
It said New Jersey's estimated 4.11 million dry tons of biomass could deliver up to 654 megawatt hours of energy. Now, I'm not going to go behind their calculation. It may be correct. I didn't go that far into it. But then they said that's 6.4% of New Jersey's
Oh.
electricity consumption, which is way, way off. It's not even close.
All right, so you're gonna.
It's a
delete
very
that.
small percentage of what New Jersey actually consumes in electricity. So if you like, that might be a good suggestion. Just omit that part about the percent comparison and let it go at the other number, which I think would be fine.
And then we would do the same thing, John, right, with the second percentage. Which would
Right,
be
right.
4.3,
Just omit that phrase about 6.4%.
Oh, but do you think the 4.3 was accurate? Or should we delete that as well?
I'm sorry.
I would
I would
delete it.
delete it to keep it
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, say again?
Oh, so we're also going to delete that 4.3% of transportation fuel
I would-
consumed,
I would just take out the 6.4% of new, 4 point, oh, right.
just to
okay.
be
No,
consistent.
that I
Yeah.
did not do that particular calculation. I think that's probably also grossly overestimated.
So I would
Yeah.
say if they asked,
So I
if
think
the number was
probably
wrong in
if
the
you wanted-
first one,
I would omit that too,
Yeah.
pending any further corrections.
yeah, I would agree.
So I think that's a good idea.
Sounds good.
So-
Thank you.
If the board wants to do that,
No, I would recommend doing that. That makes sense to me.
I think we should.
yeah,
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Thank you.
that's it. Thank you.
Point that out.
Thank you, Jeff.
Any other public comments? Entertain a motion, to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Simon, second by Anis, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, colleagues, what are we doing here? Any debate? We're gonna take out the percentages. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve to adopt the farmland preservation plan element with the changes that we've discussed.
I'll second it.
Motion by Alan, second by Simon. Please call the roll.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Chiquetel,
Yes.
Mr. Pancove,
Yes.
Mr. Begg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jeevers,
Yes,
Mayor Marate,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hover,
Yes.
and Chairman Clark.
Yes.
Thank you
Motion
all.
carried.
This is always a team effort, so thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Good job, David.
Thank you, David, thank you.
So Sam, what's going on the rest of the month?
Probably our next meeting will be April 12th.
Oh, really?
There's a chance we may have something on March 15th, so I'm just gonna send a cancellation out for next week. But I'm 99% sure our next meeting will be April 12th.
I will not be available for that meeting.
I'm here for it. Michael, I'm here. We can do it.
That April 12th is for the ordinance review, right?
It's for the ordinance for the new floodplain management ordinance that the state wants us to adopt.
Yeah, but we haven't heard back from,
We heard back from them,
we heard back.
a lot of comments.
of course.
I'm sorry, Sam, when is the next anticipated
Okay.
date? I missed that.
April 12th.
February 12th is the
April
next
12th.
date, but there may be one on March 15th. I'll know next week whether that's the case.
April 12th, right?
April 12th.
Okay.
That is my birthday.
And who else said they weren't available on April 12th?
I will not be available.
I know Anis isn't. And come on, you're not available, correct?
Wait.
April 12th, you're not.
If the meeting is there, I will.
Okay, I think that's during spring break. I think schools are closed, right? That week?
I don't know. I don't know when spring break is.
I think it's,
It's I mean, that's the Wednesday after Easter. If that's.
I'm pretty sure that's the week, my kids are off. Okay, meeting adjourned at 8:22.
I took the